So hello everybody and welcome back to another YouTube video. We were live on Twitch on last Monday with MSC F1 Esports for the QATAR Grand Prix. It was a fantastic race and that fight for the lead and fight for all the points all around. It was a fantastic race. First we go into the qualifying session, then straight into the race. Definitely the one not to miss. As it's ZABX now out on track. Almost everyone now trying to get out on track as soon as possible, put in a lap in. Of course, dry conditions here at the QATAR Grand Prix, and it is Johnny Reid who seems to be the one out on track before anybody else, and the one which would be looking to begin his flying lap as soon as possible, and pretty much before anybody else does it, he will do so. Of course, as we're just waiting a driver to start their flying laps, as we try and catch up with others on track as well. Johnny is of course one of the closest to that finish line to start his flying lap, as we've just begun in this short qualifying session. Betten now getting out on the garage, as well as Adam, as others now following by as well. Everybody coming out there to doing the best they can, trying to show the maximum performance out on this QATAR Grand Prix track. Of course, every single one of them has practiced, has put in the lap times in, has put the laps in tram trial to get themselves to the top, get themselves prepared to do a best lap on the circuit tonight. Let's see who puts it where and who does what. We'll just be getting a driver beginning a flying lap, and it is going to be Johnny Reid, the first one to come across that finish line to begin his flying lap. And right behind him is going to be the Mercedes driver ZABX, he's currently in 16th, but of course no lap times on board. This is just the default one, as now he's right behind Johnny. So if he's any quicker, he might get a bit of a feeling that he is getting no space, but of course he's quite far behind him, so that shouldn't really be an issue for him, at least, as others are also now coming across that finish line to begin their flying laps. The first stint we have, 15 minutes still remain in this qualifying, no laps on board still, but sure, this is a fast track. This is we'll see some great, and in fact a lot of racing around this circuit. There's no walls, no street circuit, but of course any mistake you do, you'll be punished with those gravel traps around, as well as running wide. This is surely a flat out track, not a lot of braking corners, but still definitely a one that's mentally tough. And Johnny has already invalidated his lap. That means it's not going to be counting any lap he does, and he's hit the 100-meter board as well, I think, as we try and catch up with ZABX, who hasn't invalidated his lap, and others behind as well, as we're just trying to catch up with him. He goes across that finish line. Of course, he's going to be the one only on track with 121.0. What about the Williams right behind him? It is a Williams of Urma Dog. He goes P2, 122.7, quite slower than ZABX actually. And we try and catch up with one of the Ferrari drivers. It should be nimble. It is nimble, but it was he was just starting his flying lap. So we try and catch up with anyone who's trying to finish their laps, as Phoenix Toray goes 121.3. So in fact, ZABX's lap was not slow and actually quite quick enough, as Kvyat now puts it P3, and Aston Martin and McLaren following behind. Is where does Adam put it across that finish line? He's in fact just he goes P2, putting it on that front row, super close between P1 and P2, both in that 121.0, with Phoenix currently P4, and Anur Hassan has put it P4 as well. Phoenix in P3. As you try and catch up with the rest of the drivers, as it is one of the Ferrari drivers. I think he should be nimble now, completing his flying lap. He is actually quite far away, but it might have been one of the McLarens, and it was Adam in that McLaren, putting it P9, P8 and P9s, the McLarens currently, and the only ones that have a lap time on board, with only 9 of them at the moment having a lap on board. And I think there's a blue car, and that should be one of the Williams coming across to start a flying lap, as we try and catch up with someone who should be on their flying lap. And it is nimble, this man, previous US Grand Prix winner, across that finish line. Is he fast enough tonight in Qatar? There he goes, P1, almost by 3/10. That's quite a long margin. What about Daddy Cool in that Haas? Across that finish line, he's coming. He's only puts it P9 though, not that fast. Needs a lot of time to find. We've still got 12 minutes to go in this session, so a lot of drivers, in fact, haven't even had a lap time on board at the moment. It's almost all of them now finishing their first stint and heading to those pits, as we still try and catch up with someone who would be looking to do a lap and put some time on board, and that would be Jezaboy coming across that last corner to go through that finish line. Still a long way to go. He's the last one currently having no lap time on board. Across that finish line, where does it put him? It hasn't updated. He goes P5. I wonder if the McLaren behind him improved or was on a flying lap, but sure, he goes P5, a bit closer to his teammate. Maybe not close enough, but sure of somewhat. And his what about One Kidney Jim? He's also going to come home finishing that lap, but invalidating it, of course. You need a valid lap to do so, so definitely not what he would have wanted across that finish line. I think there's a Red Bull or a Williams, and that is Jonathan goes P7, and Alfa Romeo following behind as well. I think they are starting their flying laps, but one of them behind, I think, should be on a flying lap, but not so, as we don't see Phoenix Gray still in P4, so I don't think, let me check if it was Johnny Reed. Remember, it is Johnny. He, remember, invalidated his first lap, and he does the second one as well. Definitely, you would not be loving this time on track. He puts, of course, a brand new set of softs, and this track, just like Austria at Spielberg, it's kind of punishing. It's really punishing if you don't keep it within those white lines, and it's quite challenging to do that. So, and I think that should be. It is Devil rejected in one McLaren. What about the Ferrari driver? He's coming into the pits, so we now try and catch up with Devil rejected once again. He's currently only second last with the lap time he has across that finish line. Is he going to be finding any time both improvement in his time? He doesn't do so. He does so, in fact, by 2.5 tenths. Still keeps him P12 to himself. He's only faster than his teammate, who I think is, of course, going to be improving. 1:31.4 is not a normal lap time, so of course do see a lot of improvements from him, and I think one of the Mercedes on an out lap as well, as we try and catch up with someone who would be on a flying lap, and it is going to be Tyler, who, in fact, so if I'm not wrong, finished second in that Austin Grand Prix, or at least in that top 3. He goes P7 at the moment, so he must be a reserve driver if I'm not wrong. Different cars on different days as we try and catch up with everybody. Nimble still fastest, remember, 1:20.7, and the gap between 2 and 3 is really close. 1:21.004 with 1:21.056, and one of the Mercedes it should be on an out lap. What about an Aston? What about an AlphaTauri? That should be Johnny, I think. He does. It does show purple in that middle sector. Oh, sorry, in that first sector for Johnny Reid, but is he going to keep it all together throughout the lap? Remember, he has invalidated 2 flying laps, but I'm sure he would not be wanting to do that anymore, and would have to try and put a lap time on board only. He's only one of the, out of the 3 drivers who have no lap time on the boat at the moment, with One Kidney Jim, Dangerous Dave, and Johnny Reid having no lap time on board, and I think one of the McLarens also on an out lap. So anyone we try and catch up who would be on a flying lap. What about Dangerous Dave? I see an Alfa Romeo with a flying lap. It is Dangerous Dave on a flying lap, but of course not the quicker one. What about Phoenix Gray now? He is actually quite far away. It should be Johnny Reid. He also comes into the pits again. So Johnny maybe didn't thought that it was going to be enough. He just decided to pit again, maybe for another set of soft compound tires, to give himself the help and the performance that he would have wanted, or he needs to do that. What about Anur Hassan? He's just coming around that finish line, I think. Is he on an improvement lap? Let's switch up to him. It, in fact, it might have not been him, or either been him, as Scott's now goes for P1. Scottex now goes P1 with 1:20.7 as well. Really close these pole times here at this circuit, as we still try and catch up with someone on a flying lap. I think Dangerous Dave now should be closer, coming out around that finish line to finish his flying lap, and that is going to be P9 for him. 1:21.7, 1:27, so almost more than a second pretty much across that pole position time. I think anyone in that top 3 has a chance. It's Phoenix Gray, 120.0 as well, closer to those, but that's Kotex. I haven't seen much of him before, but he sure has done a lap. That's exciting. And what about Adams now? He does it 121.3 as well. He was plumb last, but I knew it. There was, of course, going to be time from him and performance from him to do so, and he has done it. Maybe not enough, but I think P5, he should be happy with that, with the current, how competitive the grid is. As Adam comes into the pits, what about Hassan? He's going to improve his flying, his performance. He's got no ERS to use so, but he goes over 4/10 quicker than his previous lap time to put it P5. What about the drivers behind? What about Nimble, the pole man? He's invalidated his lap. What about his teammate who's just going to begin his flying lap? Am I having a look at ScottX? We were having a look at ScottX, but we're now going to have a look at his teammate who's going to be coming across that finish line. It shows 122 something, but I think he must have invalidated his lap. That's why it did not mean anything. What about Baton in that Red Bull? He's also invalidated his lap. I've never commentated at QATAR before, but sure at Austria, which is definitely a punishing track for track limits. But QATAR seems to be even more worst, even more harder for all these drivers to put a lap in and to perform, keeping the car on track, at least within those white lines. Still 6 minutes to go. Anyone could snatch it unless somebody like ScottX Nimble could find extra time, as well as Phoenix as well. Maybe Fleetwood is also not that far away, as well as Hassan. I think the Aston Martin drivers pretty much in the best positions as a team for P4 and 5. If we try and have a look at other drivers, their teammates are kind of far away from them, but the Aston Martin drivers are not. What about Jezaboy now? He's going to be coming in to do a lap time in to try and get closer to his teammate who's currently on pole. Cross that finish line. He's only good enough for P6. What about the McLaren, the Williams behind of Urma Dog across that finish line? He does not improve on his previous lap time and very slow in the 125, so that might not have been a timed lap. What about Baton? He's going super slow. He's going pretty much turtle speed in a Formula 1 car. That is his outlap, and he's pretty much going to be trying to let the driver behind by, I think, and he's coming into the pits as well. But what about his teammate who's just going to start a flying lap, and we try and catch up with someone who will be on their flying lap as well. I think it is Devil Rejected also on his outlap, currently one of the slowest drivers on track at Red Bull. Both the Red Bulls close to each other, pretty much. He lets Kvyat by to improve, because sure, he's slower than Kvyat, but I think Baton didn't seem to be on a timed lap actually at the moment. And what about the AlphaTauri driver, Johnny now? Johnny Reed, he's going to be coming across that finish line, on that finish line straight. Across that line, how fast does he go? He goes on pole. He takes the pole for now in over 4/10. That is a huge gap. If we talk about, that's really a huge gap. 120.367 to the 120.731. That's a great lap. Remember his previous 2 attempts, he invalidated both of the laps and ruined the set of tires as well, but he sure went in, got a new set, and really showed what the capability he had. But still, in the race and at the race start, it could be anyone's game. It's not going to be easy. Surely a greater track and a harder track for everyone out here as well. We now catch up with the Red Bull boys. I think it should be Kvyat coming across to finish his lap. We try and catch up with him. I think he's going to finish the lap before we catch up with him. He does finish, he does improve, but still stays in P12. What about Devil Rejected? He was on a flying lap as well. Does he improve? Or I think he did not improve at all. What about Devil Rejected? He didn't seem to improve. He might have invalidated his lap or did not improve. I think I did saw him in the 123, so still in those 123s. And what about the Alfa Romeo boys? What about Dangerous Dave? He still is in P11, so might have just started his flying lap. It's just 3 minutes now remaining in this session. Everybody gonna go into the pits, get out on those new tires. A Dangerous Dave looking to improve, already struggling outside that top 10. but has invalidated his lap already and is now slowing down to let the McLaren behind by. As we try and catch up with someone, of course, who would be on their flying lap, as One Kidney Jim, also One Kidney Jim, the only driver who doesn't have a lap time on board, but he might show us something unexpected, just like Johnny did. He invalidated his first laps, then did a lap to be the fastest out of every single one of them. Still anybody's game, still anything that could go anywhere, but we'll just try and have a look at these drivers. Just 2 minutes now remain in this session. I think I have not much experience of commentating nor racing here at the QATAR Grand Prix, but sure we'll see that and have a look at everyone out here today. Surely the track limits thing, as Devil Rejected has retired from the session, pretty much maybe knowing that he doesn't have much time in that McLaren or on track to get out and retire this car as well. Now every single one of them on an outlap pretty much, except for One Kidney Jim and for Anira Hassan. Kidney Jim, let's have a look at him. He's closer to that line to give us some action, as our minute and 30 seconds now remain in this session. Jim, of course, doesn't want to do one thing, and that is invalidate his last attempt, because that is going to put him very last without a lap time on board. He has managed to do, though, unless he puts it in the wall on a main straight. There shouldn't be any problem for him to finish his lap, cross that finish line. That is only good for P14. Only good for P14. What about Hassan? He goes P4. Definitely a greater lap for him than the McLaren behind is on an out lap as well. Someone we try and catch up. It is McLaren now starting his flying lap. What about Jazzaboy also starting his lap as well? Hassan has put it P4. Definitely a greater lap. He's showing some exciting pace, as well as his teammate as well, Fleetwood, in that top 6 as well. Someone we try and catch up with, Phoenix Gray, of course, on a flying lap. What about Adam now coming across that corner to start his flying lap? What about the Red Bull drivers, I think, who are also starting their laps as well? It is going to be Baton starting his flying lap, and the Mercedes right behind them. It is Scottex now trying to do a starter lap and improve on his previous lap time over 4/10. I mean, if they could find that much time, especially the likes of Scottex and Nimble, that means the track is ramping up. So we could see even more faster times if they could end up beating all these guys. Now just 8 seconds remaining to the session, so no one pretty much would be able to start a new lap. So anyone who finishes across that line would end up finishing their session as well. What about Daddy Cool? He's going into the pits. That means checkered flag for him as well, as One Kidney Jim now into the pits as well. Lots of the drivers into the pits. What about Jonathan? He's not doing into the pits as well. He's far away from the pits, in fact. What about Adams now? P8 currently. Is he going to be on an improvement? Cross that finish line. He's going to take the checkered flag in P8. P6, in fact, he improves and goes quite faster. What about Jazzaboy? He's right behind him. That Ferrari, he goes P6, pushes Adams down as well. Now there is a Aston Martin coming right behind, and that is Jazza. In fact, his teammate goes into the pits knowing that there's not much enough time, and he might not be improving as well. That is going to be Fleetwood across that finish line. Is he going to get any closer to his teammate in P4? Cross that finish line. P2 he goes, currently on the front row, really close, and a Red Bull and a Mercedes finishing that photo, finishing qualifying, but that will not mean anything. They're really pretty much at the bottom of the grid. What about Johnny Reed now? Okay, he's still on pole though. Adam Fleet was closer to that pole time. What about Nimble? Currently 1:20.4. Johnny goes even more faster, 1:20.321. Fantastic laps, and every single one of them now have taken the checkered flag. Johnny Reed, the one on pole, Nimble in second place, Fleetwood in third, Scottex in fourth. It's going to be a really great fight, at least from that top 5, from P1 to P5 and 6, that's for sure. Hassan P5, Phoenix Gray P6, with Jazzaboy P7 and Adams P8, with Tyler and Jonathan completing that top 10, with of course Urma Dog and Devil Rejected currently out of the session. As we're now waiting for the race, before we go to the race, we'll just take a short break here and we'll be back right away. And now it is time, so it might be here a minute or two here and there, but I think it should just be time now. and enough time to begin. And there we go, we just in a minute, just in a little bit, we should be seeing all these cars out on track. Already be seeing cars out on track in full 5 red lights, and we go racing here in Qatar. It gets a good start, does Nimble, does. I think something's happened. We're not seeing any kind of let me try and get back to the races. We're trying to catch up with everybody out there, as well as Johnny Reid now going wheel to wheel around that line with Nimble to get himself back into his race lead and back into that performance he wants. And there's already a yellow flag in the field bunched up at the back of the field, and it is the likes of Kvyat, Urmadog and Dangerous Dave following behind, as the Dutchie and Daddy Cool in the Haas cars fighting each other out as well. Just ahead of them is Devil Rejected. Ahead of them is One Kidney Jim and all of the packs driving behind. And Jezza Boy, I remember he qualified at least inside that top 10, is falling back very massively, currently in P9, gaining back some positions. Of course, this track is really punishable if you do a mistake, as we try and get back to the top drivers once again. We're only on lap 1 and we've seen almost half of the chaos, but we'll try and get back and do the maximum job we can. It's still once again some yellow flags, and someone has came off, and that is Jazza Boy, who's came off once again. His car is getting ghosted as well, as almost every single one of them starting on that hard compound tire. This Qatar Grand Prix circuit, of course, very hard on those tires, except the Williams boys both starting on that medium compound tire, so might not be looking to go that long, as some cars weaving now, changing their position, staging their direction to not give the car behind any slipstream. Johnny gets the fastest lap, of course. He was ahead the whole lap, but one more chance, or just in a minute we could see Nimble take Johnny overtake, but he goes wide, running wide. Will sure give the chance to the cars behind to get ahead of him. But still, this whole field bunched up, and any chance or any time you think you can overtake, you might not be able to, and run wide and leave and get all that progress undone. We will try and catch up with the back of the field in a minute, as well as we try and have a look. As there we see a move from Benton round the outside of the Haas driver to get himself into 11th place, just a position behind the points scoring position, as One Kidney Jim currently in P10, putting himself, still staying out there as he try and catch up. And there is some positions changed, and I think Dangerous Dave and someone else is involved. And there is Jezza Boy, one other spin from him. I don't know what is really wrong with him, but anyways, let's focus on the drivers that are closer and racing each other out there, as currently the leader still stays same. The lead still stays same, but the back of the field showing some moves and showing some nice performance. Dangerous Dave, Daddy Cool and the Dutchie quite close to each other. Urmada goes very wide with we try and catch up with Dutchie now super close, as Johnny Reid gets another fastest lap. He's really quick. As now round the outside, Benton really close with the Dutchie. They're still wheel to wheel. They'll go into turn 1. None of them want to back out. They're still going into turn 1, but the Red Bull driver has to pull out, but he might be doing the switch back once again. There could be a chance one more time, as one of the Williams driver has lost out either connection or just left the session. But we try and catch up with the field ahead now. We try and see Tyler. I think he headed a really fantastic race in QATAR, didn't he? But we'll see how good does he do, as every single one of them, that's an interesting choice, every single one of them on those hard tires. Of course, the Qatar Grand Prix, really, the Qatar circuit is a killer of degradation and tire degradation for every single one of them. So definitely that was the only choice they had pretty much, and towards the end they could do a strategy of hard to medium. Really unlikely you could see someone putting out softs on, unless there's a late pit stop for them or a chance to get that fastest lap to themselves. As now it's going to be even more closer with that DRS now enabled and available for Nimble to attack, for Fleet to attack, for Scottex to attack. So can Hassan. Every single one of them closer to each other can attack. In fact, it is really close, the gap. But what about Nimble now? Is he going to go on the inside into turn 1? He's still on that rear wing of Johnny, isn't he? He's still backing out. He's not backing out, but sure, he's still staying behind. No dive bombs, no unnecessary aggressive driving that we see some drivers do, as Adam Fleet is doing a surely great one. He's still hanging around that P3 position. Scottex not He's got XP4 as well. Sure, will be trying to have a jump in a minute to get himself ahead, as these guys now fighting, but Urmadog is simply an AI fighting Dangerous Dave, as he's out of that session as it stands at the minute. We're on lap 4 out of 29. It just stands as Phoenix Guy currently as Devil Rejected already got a 3-second time penalty. This circuit also really hard to keep it within those fight lines, so definitely a lot of penalties coming these drivers' ways in a minute. The lead has not changed since lap 1, still stays the same as it was as we had at the race start. As we try and see any move-making drivers, I think everyone's close to each other, but just not enough opportunities to go aggressive driving or go down the inside, because any mistake you do is you will be punished and pushed down the order as soon as possible, as we try and get back. One more chance for Nimble, and I think this time he's ever closer he's been to Johnny for that race lead move, and he in fact does make that race lead move, and he currently has taken the lead, and before they get even into the corner, he's a whole car ahead of Johnny Reid. But sure, Johnny's going to be doing nothing wrong in hanging around with Nimble to stay in a very big chance of retaking that real lead as soon as possible. Also, position switches at the back of the pack would be most likely to happen, as well as we see these guys at the bottom of the field fight. It's ZABX, Devil Rejected, and an AI car of Urmadog. But I think that's not our focus. Dutchy currently has fallen behind. Maybe he's just not having enough pace, or he's either had an incident, because he's at least was in that upper midfield earlier, as I saw. And now we see once again Dutchy gets a penalty, but as now Devil Rejected is going to try and get ahead of the AI of Urmadog as well, of course. It's an AI car that is pretty much an annoying situation for the drivers around it. Try and get back to the top. Nimble still staying out there, still hanging on to this race lead, still keeping it as his own since the beginning, but we'll see what he can do. Still has a proper chance to keep it. He has all the ERS to defend though, 75% of it, but so does Johnny to get an attack to go himself into the lead. But also not only the top two, but there could be a proper chance for Scottix to go into third place as well. He doesn't manage to do so, but Johnny Reid does manage to do so to take that race lead back again. And this is going to be a fight all race long between the top two and between the top four, pretty much, as they're staying close to each other. And unless they do a mistake, there shouldn't be anything. Unless they do a mistake or collide with each other, there wouldn't be much chances of drivers dropping down the grid in terms of pace, as Dutchy now tries to have a move on ZABX. They're still closer. So on ZABX, it is Devil Rejected, who was also stuck behind the AI, trying to get ahead with the pace he had, and he's gone really, really wide and really deep on the exit, and that has allowed the Dutchy to get ahead of him. As we see some position switching at the top as well, as we try and get back with each other with that top level, as it is now closer for Fleet to get ahead of Nimble as well. It's really close between them. Almost on that rear wing of Nimble is Fleet. Johnny's also just within the reach as well, but not far away, but not as close as well. But still, it's going to be really hard to keep them behind with the help of that DRS. And one thing Nimble has done good. He's done so. Johnny has done so just to keep up. Nimble has done so with that ERS to keep himself closer to it as he goes into turn one ahead of Johnny. As thank you so much for that follow. We try and invite our drivers, as of course the drivers are busy, so you could please comment your username. I could add you and invite you into the race as soon as possible. As we are on lap 7 out of 29, we see position switches, we see performance from all of them. Let it be from at the start of the grid or the bottom of the grid. And one more chance for Johnny Reid to get ahead, but also a chance for Fleet to get ahead into second place as well, as I guess Urmadog is finally back into the lobbies. His laps are already done, and he's going to now try and take control. His AI is having to fight Devil Rejected at that bottom of the grid. It's over half a second now, the gap between Nimble and Johnny Reid, really, to go for that race lead. Still could be possible with that help of that DRS. Johnny's losing all of his ERS Adam's just playing it safe. At the moment, he's 84% with battery remaining. For Scottex, it is 40% or so for Anur Hassan as well, as we try and catch up with Adam, who got the fastest lap, I think, in the previous laps. He has no ERS left at all. What about Johnny now? There could be proper chance for him to take back that race lead into turn 1. He does so once again. He's the race leader. These top two would be switching pretty much towards till the end of the race, I think. That's what sure, unless they mess up something out there. But of course, with no safety car out on the circuit, there's a lot less chances if someone would end up dropping back, unless it's their own mistake. And Urmadog now finally back in this car and back in control of that Williams. Of course, those mediums might be over now, having done 6 laps on those, but still lots of performance in that, as he's not going to try and fight with the Devil Rejected. He almost put his nose in already before he's just came in on the circuit. It's going to be nice, and for both of them to pick up a pace and pick up to the drivers ahead. Of course, it's going to be quite hard as Johnny's hanging around that lead. What about the fight between these two? We try and get up, go up a bit higher the field as Dangerous Dave with a penalty, and Daddy Cool currently in 11th with One Kidney Jim in his own race. But these 3 drivers are closer, and really closest to each other are the likes of Jonathan, Tyler and Phoenix Gray. Very close, as well as the leaders. These guys could be showing we could be seeing from these guys as well. And now one more chance for Nimble to go back to that race lead as he goes on the inside to gain that lead again, as we're going to try and get to these guys, as Tyler currently takes 7th place ahead of Jonathan. Phoenix, I think, was ahead of both of them, or at least in the middle of them, has lost out, settling in for P9 at the moment. P9 on lap 9. We now try and catch up with the race leader Nimble once again. I think these guys would have to be playing at least some good tactics on track, but with strategy as well. There could be a proper chance to get that lead, but because this circuit is super closer racing and super good pace from the top 2 as well, it's going to be sure a great fight to see for that race win. Of course, it's great we're having to see a fight this time around, unless the last time we were trying to have not have a fight for that race win. Just pick up back with the race. We see some yellow flags, maybe some of the drivers colliding with each other, some of them having difficulties keeping the car on track, as we see a little bit of a move from, we try and go on board with Johnny, but we try and go on board with one man, and that is Fleet on screen. But does he have a chance to go on the inside? He doesn't have a chance, so he's just try and defend from the Mercedes behind of it's not Scottex, actually. Scottex closer to Hassan. He's currently keeping it in 4th place, but sure, Scottex is going to come behind him. Scottex, remember, had some nice pace in that qualifying session, but of course not enough to be the quickest out there. But this, the pair of these guys, Tyler, Jonathan and Phoenix, still really closer to each other and really closer for that performance and overtakes again and again. But so are the leaders as well, as you try and get to a little bit bottom of the field. P9 Phoenix is also with them, as well as One Kidney is also just having his own race. So is Daddy Cool, as the Red Bull of QATAR pulling up behind for Daddy Cool. But it's going to be sure some nice things, as Urmadog has already gotten ahead of Devil Rejected at this point, as we try and catch up with the leaders once again. Over half a second the gap between the top 2, and 4/10 to P3 and P2. So in fact, Johnny is now closer to Adam than he is closer to Nimble, but I'm sure he would want to be using all that ERS and DRS. He has only 18% of that. Nimble has all of it to defend, but one man who could be doing an attack. I'm trying to see this move. That doesn't come possible, but one need move for that race lead, and Johnny has spun this car, and he's going to be pretty much losing so many positions. He's just trying to snuck his nose on the inside of Nimble, and he's really given himself the chance of that race win going into the dust. and in the bin. He's just spun himself, and I wonder if there's any damage for him as well. We saw that live move. It was a really, really late move. He had to go for that kind of a desperate move because of how he was not being able to overtake, and he's really bottled it out, and he's now behind his teammate as well. Currently in P9 is Johnny, and surely some breath of space from Nimble to see no Johnny behind him. Definitely Fleet is going to be even closer to him now, but he might not be enough in terms of pace that Johnny Reed was driving, and Johnny really made that dive bomb on the inside. That was never going to be a successful move of how late he made that move. Definitely some regrets at AlphaTauri, as one of the drivers already in P8 and the other bottling out that race lead. Pretty much that race win, at least the podium, that top 3. No one was going to touch him to be in second place or third place at least, of how much pace he had. But we'll see now. Have a look at these guys now. QATAR currently taking third place, getting ahead of Hassan, as Hassan now still keeping his fourth place. He has a good chance to go for that podium place as well, to make it at Aston Martin double podium. But we'll just get to know that in a bit, if that's any possibility, as these guys now getting closer and closer. So is Adam getting closer to Nimble. Let's try and get back to the race. There's a bit of problems, but we're now back. And now, as it stands, it is Adam quite closer. We try and catch back with others now, because simply that fight between Nimble and Johnny that has been ruined. That is not coming back unless there is some extraordinary things. There's no pit stop yet from anybody out in this lobby. In fact, no one has a pit stop yet. We still try and catch up though. We try and catch up the spectator menu to give ourselves the best chance of looking at these guys for that spectator menu, and for some reason I'm not able to go in that spectator menu. Something has happened really to my controller, but anyways, we try and catch up with someone who would be close to one or the other. And Hassan now feeling that pressure from Adam, but Adam is also the other Adam, which is Adam Fleetwood, is now closer to Nimble for that race lead, and that chances of getting that race lead are getting higher and higher for Fleet. Is he going to go on the inside this time? He just backs out, of course. He has seen Johnny spun in front of his eyes, so he knows no risky moves, no moves that would end up ruining his race all time long. Probably because with no safety car, there's no chance if you fall behind the track because of a mistake that you would make the ground back up. A lot lower chances for these guys, as we now try and catch up with someone who would be close, as these top 2 are already close, and actually quite really close enough, as that fight which was for P7 has become for P6, and Tyler is currently comfortably leading that, as Johnny's going to try his all to recover. He's ahead of his teammate now. Maybe just gotten ahead on pace or just let by, but now he's going to try and catch back to Jonathan to get himself a bit ahead, and I think Jonathan's medium tires would be pretty much running out now. And now one more chance for Fleet to get closer to Nimble. The gap is actually quite a lot. He's not using any of that ERS. Is a Fleet really to give him that extra speed, but at the moment he is not wanting that. He just doesn't want to be wasting any of that. Sure, he knows his best chance is P2, maybe P1, but of course not at this point. Anyways, even if he gets that race lead, he's gonna get it back snatched. So one thing he just wants to do is stay close and attack in that second stint and that second chances. And a lot of drivers getting penalties. Is Johnny coming into the pits? Yes, he is. He in fact went into the pits and now out on the track in 11th place, just ahead of QATAR. Oh, thank you so much, F7 Racing, for those cheers. Really means a lot as we try and get back into that race action now. Hope you're enjoying the battle and the action out on track as we try and get to the action as it stands. These guys once again closer to each other, but 7/10. I think anything within, if he's within half a second of him, there could be a chance for him to go for that race lead, but not at the moment. But we'll once again see how it stands. And one more chance. Johnny has spun it already, so he knows that, and we see some pit stop action as well. It is Scottex into that Mercedes garage. Medium tires go on for him as it stands. Pretty much, yeah, all of the drivers are not going to go on those medium tires. No soft tires to anyone, I don't think so. So Johnny has pitted, and the gap is not actually quite a lot, and there is a proper chance if someone ahead pits. If he's within those drivers, I'm not sure how much long it takes in that pit lane to all these drivers to be pitting and coming out. Phoenix now in P4, of course, he has not pitted still on those old hard tires. I know Hassan actually coming out ahead of Scottex. Remember, Hassan was behind Scottex on track. That is net podium place fighting, because everyone ahead has to be pitting now. So it could even be a race lead, but if it takes more than 20 seconds for that pit stop here at the QATAR Grand Prix, as you see some fighting, or it's just been into the pits. There is no pits, there is fighting, as Tyler has got new tires to himself, as now it's really close between Hassan and Scottex. Of course, Scottex wants his third place back before, as it stands now, we see a race lead move. In fact, it is not a race lead move, it is pit stops from Nimble now. Nimble pretty much on that undercut. I think Johnny might have done an undercut, but let's see where he comes out as everyone else has pitted. He hasn't made that much progress, already having done a lap, as now Jonathan goes into second place as well. And I think it is Nimble's more race is going to be with Fleet now. Fleet's going to try and do everything to answer as soon as possible to go into that pit and answer this undercut that has been done from Nimble as it stands. As you see a lot of position switching, but of course not a lot on that racetrack, as one on racetrack, and that is this one. Scottex already just coming out of those pits. He lost that race position in that pit stops, but he's already showing that he's a lot quicker than Hassan at the moment. But sure, Hassan is also sticking in that top 5 as the rest of them fight behind as well, as it is Johnny and Adams now fighting each other out. And now it could be a chance for Johnny to get closer, as now he's having to even struggle to keep ahead of Adams at the moment. He is still behind Adams, but there could be a proper chance for him to get that lead once again. As the real question would be, where does Adam come out? He's going to go into the pits now. Jonathan in second place also should be coming in. He's made those medium tires last 15 laps, just as long as those hard tires runners have done so. Fleet has pitted, Jonathan hasn't. He would like to go a bit longer. Sure, he knows the top are not his race, but where is Nimble now? We'll have to have a look at that. And he's also paying penalties, I think, Fleet, if I'm not wrong. And now across that finish straight is coming Nimble. Where is Fleet now? Fleet across. It's going to be a really, really close one battle. He's going to come out of those pits on those colder tires as well. And Nimble has already jumped on Fleet, so that undercut has worked. As now Johnny tries to make that move on the inside, this time a lot earlier and a lot cleaner in terms of the one he did for that race lead. And now they're closer to Hassan, so proper chance and pressure to Hassan as well. And Adams also showing some nice pace in that McLaren. With the performance from all these guys, we are seeing almost already a lot of laps remaining though in this race. More than 10 laps, 12 laps pretty much in this race remain. Even more so including this one, but we'll just still sure for an amazing battle. Jonathan yet to pit at the top, currently the race leader, but sure he's gonna, as soon as he pits, Nimble's gonna get that race lead. And 3.2 seconds, quite a lot. Not only he's exited ahead of Fleet, but so has he done pulling out a gap as well. And now Adam is pretty much going to be getting that pressure from the cars behind, unless they're focusing ahead. His race is going to turn into that focus behind, and Johnny gets himself a penalty as well, a 3-second time penalty. So in fact, out of these 17 drivers, 10 now as Adam gets his penalty, as well as 10 of them have a penalty to themselves, as Jonathan now already pits. That sends Adam Fleet into second place and Scott X to third, as well as now these positions are switching up as Jonathan is going to that medium tire. That soft tire, as I was just saying that you're not going to see anyone put that soft tire on. He surely is, and he thinks he could go towards the end on those soft tires. Surely that'll take a lot, and pretty much towards the end of the race he might not have some pace. Make sure there is no Tony involved. If you know, you know. But anyways, we try and get back to this race. Now ZABX really losing positions. He had a struggle at the start of the race and hasn't been able to show up in those points positions since the start. He has not pitted as well, so hasn't Baton. Both of them currently going long, are almost pretty much having to fight each other out there as we try and see the rest of the pack as well. So Adam Fleet now also kind of having that race of his own as he pulls away almost a second over Scott X. These two are in their own, and then the pack behind, the likes of Hassan Reed, is currently in 5th place. Sure, he's recovering well at least after a massive spin he had, so he might have had no damage at least. And now it's going to be a proper chance for him before they even get to that last corner. He was so close to get ahead of him. Now he's going to have that ERS or DRS rear wing wide open and that extra speed, and he's already going to be alongside him, and they're still wheel to wheel. None of them is backing out, but now unfortunately Hassan would have to do so. And Johnny Reed back into 4th place as it stands. He's finally recovering well at least, but is he going to recover well enough to try and catch up to Scott X? And he might even be able to do so, because only 2.5 seconds gap now between them. And I think he might not be able to win now, because already 2.8 seconds gap between the top two. But if he manages to get through these guys quite easily, he might be able to do so. But if it takes him time and some time lost, he might not be. So still a long race though, still a lot to look in this race as we try and catch up with Dangerous Dave and Daddy Cool at this point. He's not fighting Daddy Cool, he's fighting the Red Bull of Baton, who has not pitted and still stayed out. The fight he was having with ZABX, also him and QATAR also went on that medium tire as well. So these guys are thinking to take the last remaining 10 laps on this soft compound tire. Of course, the leader's not choosing to do so, but sure, there might be the drivers like these having nothing to lose, especially the likes of QATAR and ZABX, who were outside the points anyways. So any chance for them to gain, any chance for them to, you know, make everything out of those medium tires, soft tires, they'll do it. And round the outside, they're still wheel to wheel. Hassan is not having it easy on Johnny Easy, and now behind him is Adams already. Johnny's not going to have that battle easy, really. He's not going to have that easy. He's going to go try and make that move on the inside already, but he's sure, I know, he's trying to be more careful now after the spin he's had. But now proper chance of anyone to even finish in that 4 or 5. Johnny now struggling to even keep P5 to himself. Surely he's doing so at the moment, but one more chance for Adam it is going to be. And Tyler, as all of them in fact have penalties, but what about Tyler? If we have a look at him, he's caught up to these guys as well in the pack. Sure, the fight for them was both P5, P6, but it was with the other drivers behind, with Phoenix and Jonathan for him. But he's now closer to the top 6 guys than to the ones at the bottom, as we still try and have a look at this magnificent battle. Hassan keeping his 4th place still to himself, as these guys are now catching up to Scott X, but it will not be as easy as they would have wanted, because simply they would be fighting each other out and defend against each other, as Hassan currently moving around all the time, all around all the track to defend this position. He still stays. There was slightly late move. Hope there was no contact, as on the inside he's already clear. Ahead of him is Johnny, and pretty much Adams now just staying behind, and so is Tyler now arriving at the scene. And there is a spin, and that is Scott X. Might have spinned on his own because no one closer to him was there, and he spun it. And Johnny, that puts Johnny back into P3 and into those podium places. I think that spun might have made Hassan lose his position as well, but I think he lost it earlier, and now Scottex, a proper chance of a podium, has lost it. Unlike Johnny, he made contact with the race leader at the earlier chance, and Johnny now 6.6 seconds behind second place. But I think even if he's able to keep or get this third place, it's really going to be a greater one for him. Absolutely nice now at the moment, as it is now Scottex currently P7. He's falling behind everyone out there massively, as the top two are getting closer and closer to each other, but maybe not close enough. Still 2.3 seconds the gap. Is they're maintaining it nicely, both of them on the medium tires, pretty much every single one of them, except for Irmadog on that hard, and the few of them on that soft compound tire, which if Jonathan ends up keeping those points, that's going to be a great result for him, considering trying to get those softs towards the end. As now Johnny's also not going to have it easy as well. He hasn't got 1, 2, but 3 cars right behind him and within that DRS range, and so a chance to attack him and to get pressured from all these behind. It is proper for Johnny to be defending, but I think he's going to be clear as of now, unless he makes a mistake. But on that main straight, it's going to be a proper chance, as you see overtakes being made from these guys. And now Tyler really close to the cars just behind Adams and Tyler. Adams going to try and defend all he can and do everything he can. That's probably going to help Johnny, that's for sure, because he wants all the drivers behind all the drivers behind quite very away from him. He doesn't want to be turning and looking into his rear view mirror. Sure, he needs to look a bit ahead as well. I think at the moment he's clear, but earlier a dive bomb that pretty much cost him that second place and that race win as well. But let's have a look at the penalties at the moment, because if you've got the penalties, sure, everyone from Johnny, from Adam to Tyler has got penalties, but now on the inside a proper chance for Adam to go into turn 1. Before they get even into turn 1, he gets ahead of Hassan already. Now we try and get the help with the penalties. Tyler's got 12 seconds of penalties, so he's not going anywhere for these, but all of the rest of them with those 3-second ones. So those guys might be clear of each other, actually. So at least for these guys, the penalties don't matter. Anywhere they finish on track would be finishing the race as well, because they've got penalties. Each of them got 3-second time penalties. So as it stands, it won't be meaning much at all. As you now try and catch with Johnny's teammate Phoenix Gray here. He is just fighting those bottom points positions with Jonathan now already done on those 5 laps on those soft tires. He would like to make progress, of course. He'd be faster than Phoenix at this point, pretty much for the first few laps. But as soon as this that soft tire degrades and loses that grip, he's going to be having to struggle to stay out on track. But I might be wrong. He might be managing his tires quite a lot better than we expect. But we'll just see that towards the ending laps of the Grand Prix, as now a proper chance for Tyler to get ahead of Hassan as well. I think Hassan's just not been able to defend or not been able to keep his positions lost. But in fact, he's going to get ahead of Adams now and get that position back. As you're talking about, he might even lose to Tyler, but Adams loses to him, so he attacks that. And Jonathan, as I was saying, that needs to make up some ground on those soft tires. He is doing so as well. He's gotten ahead of Phoenix as it stands. We're on lap 24 out of 29, so over 5 laps now remain. I think Nimble and Fleet really having a race of their own, and quite a greater one. Nimble definitely doesn't have a penalty, so Adam does so, but Adam is within more than 3 seconds gap to P2, quite a lot actually, over 8 seconds, as Johnny is now also pulling away from the cars behind as well. It's more of a fight now between Tyler, Adams and Scottex. But still quite a lot to have a look at. Almost all of them now get penalties. Proper chance for Tyler now, going into still staying within his rear wing, within a chance of getting ahead when they get to that DRS zone, when they get to that fast rear wing speed zone. We'll be just going there in a minute, as Ferrari is right behind them, but that is I think Jazza Boy's Ferrari, and it is, yes. I think it might be there to be lapped as well as we try and get... It's in fact, it is lapped as we try and catch up with these guys again. I think Adams, in fact, pulling away. But one man who could not pull away from Tyler was Adams. Tyler's going to get ahead of him and go put himself into P6. I'm sure that lapped car is going to be a bit of an annoyance for them as well. But sure, not a lot of it as it's a ghosted car. But now Tyler's going to try and attack Hassan as well. Tyler surely having a great race. Not in terms of penalties, though. He's got over 12 seconds penalties. And Adams now gets another penalty as well. So this only strongs the chance of Tyler. But I think he's got... he might end up only finishing in P9 with the amount of penalties he's got with the 12 seconds. But of course the gap to P10 is over 17 seconds. So he might be clear of that. But might not be clear of anyone, as Johnny now looking quite comfortable for this P3 finish as it stands. But still quite a lot to go. Still a lot easier to make a mistake. Still a lot easier to ruin all your process, ruin all your hard work. Get that hard work undone. Now having a look at these guys as well. Tyler already eager to get ahead of Hassan. Hassan really doing everything to defend, to do everything to perform to get to the top. And he's already moved to that left hand side, and I don't think you can move a lot more or weave on that straight too many times to defend that. And he's going to let Tyler by quite easily. But I think Tyler, quite a lot of gap to over a second to Johnny though. But I think Tyler surely showing some exciting pace in this medium tire stint to fight with all these top guys. But he has no ERS, but also he doesn't. So he in fact does have the penalties, which are going to be your worst enemy on a circuit like this. Anyways, they are your worst enemies. Now we see the fight between Jonathan and Phoenix. So Phoenix is just staying behind Jonathan. Jonathan's got penalties, so Phoenix is going to get that place anyways. So he doesn't need to really fight a lot for it. But I think, yeah, Jonathan not being able to make a lot of ground really, even on those soft tires. He's in fact running out of ERS to be defending, and that gap between Tyler and Johnny now 1.2 seconds. Quite a lot of it as Nimble, the race leader, currently comfortable, has sure done the dominance of him since Johnny put his car onto the rear tire of Nimble and spun himself. It's been quite an easy affair for Nimble to do there. So as we try and have a look at once again, as now Tyler moves to that inside line way earlier, but that might have helped him at least. But has it helped him enough? It might have helped him enough as they go into turn one. Hassan doesn't try that move up. I think sure Hassan would like to finish ahead of him on track as well. But sure, he would know that he's got penalties and it would not mean a lot or for him to go for that dive bomb or ruin anybody's car or anybody's battle. Still a fight seeing worthy as you try and catch up with the cars ahead. As it stands, it should be, okay, I'm going the wrong way. You have to get to the top. It's P2 and P1, the gap is 2.4 seconds, and it is the Ferrari of Nimble and the Red Bull of Betten. It was getting lapped now. The leader has lapped might have lapped quite a lot of cars. We haven't seen the action though, but we can vouch. So as now coming around that final corner, has Nimble really dominated? He dominated at with over 10-second win at QATAR as well. So he does so as QATAR as well, to over 2.4 seconds still. I think Fleet's really having a lonely race, but sure, the race which was a lot greater for him in terms of points, in terms of position, because that P2, he's not going to mind that on a day where surely he didn't have the pace as much as the race leader. Still 1 second, Johnny still maintaining that pace. It's sure that's a fight between the drivers behind kind of helping him as well. And now we try and catch with Adams. He's kind of falling behind quite a lot. He's also in a race of his own as well in terms of that. We're already on lap 28 now, so just one more lap remaining after this one. This is sure has been a greater race We saw a lot of battles at in that first stint. Also a few of them in that second one, but not quite a lot of them, because overtaking didn't seem to be actually a lot easier, or any options for drivers to do so, except for that main DRS straight, and that main straight that everyone was getting ahead of each other on that DRS zone, as now both of the Haas drivers, Daddy Cool and the Dutchie, in P12 and 13, doing everything they can with the pace they have, but not a lot of progress. As we now try and catch up, as One Kidney Jim now almost getting lapped by the race leader, and race leader has already begun his last lap, and one final time before we see him cross that checkered flag and win this Grand Prix in Qatar. But we'll have a look at it just in a minute. As we see switch of positions, and Tyler now has getting overtaken, as these guys are still wheel to wheel. They're still giving it everything, super close, really close for contact as well, for comfort as well. We cannot miss on this section. They almost contact, they almost touch. They're still keeping it out there. None of them wants to give up. All full on throttle. Who's going to be brave into the next corner? Bits of behind. He's a bit behind now. Hassan, I think he still have to sit. He'll have to settle for P5, but I think the amount of penalties Tyler has, he should be comfortable enough to do that. So to try and get back to the race once again. The race leader is in a race of his own. Nimble now currently P1. He's dominated the race since the start. That collision between the top two, that didn't make him stop any. He comes home to across that last corner. He's going to come home to win the Qatar Grand Prix. Nimble takes the checkered flag first, and right behind him is going to be Adam Fleet as well. He's going to have a few penalties, but I think that should be clear for him to finish across that line in P2. And the man here you're seeing on your screen is Johnny, who had a bottle and who had an error, but manages to finish it in P3, and that's almost a photo finish between Tyler and Hassan, but Tyler falls behind the grid with the amount of penalties he had, as we try and catch with others taking that checkered flag. Now what a battle between Phoenix and Jonathan as well. Jonathan hasn't taken that checkered flag yet. As we try and catch up with him, he's actually quite far behind. He has taken the checkered flag. In fact, it is One Kidney Jim who's now across that finish line as well, as Jazzer Boy takes that checkered flag. It was a hell of a race, surely a fantastic one. Right behind them is Dangerous Dave. One Kidney Jim, of course, takes that last podium place, as we try and get this race not undone. As we try, of course, have a look at the drivers who have not finished the race yet. It is Kvyat, pretty much the only one who hasn't finished the race yet, and it is every single one of them haven't taken the checkered flag, except this man, Daddy Cool. He's yet to take the checkered flag. I think he might have taken the checkered flag. This was a fantastic race, and thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed the thrilling action we had here at Qatar, and the fantastic performance from all of these drivers, especially from Nimble. He's really dominated all of it. Absolutely fantastic. Really great driving from all of them. The Chigas, the driver of the day to himself, as we now try and get to that loading screen to see that finishing order the race after all the penalties applied to every single one of, not every single one of them, pretty much all of them, at least beneath that top one. And there you go, these are your podium celebration, and there is your Canadian driver and Canadian flag on top to dominate and win here at Qatar. Fantastic one, with the rest of them behind him, as well as Fleet also hanging in and having a great race as well. So did Johnny. I think Johnny would be really happy with that after bottling his chances, after making a dive bomb, which was never there. But I think, sure, a fantastic race overall, a great race to say the least, as all these drivers now celebrate it. And that then was the race here at Qatar with MSC F1. Hope you enjoyed it. It was surely a fantastic race. Definitely the one to enjoy, the one to look at from qualifying to the whole race. Hope you enjoyed it, and that'll be it for tonight.